Yeah. Come on in. Come on in. Get it in. I'm your boy G Bush, aka GB. Who I got with me?
QC.
And we make up GB and QC right on a Sunday morning. Before you go ahead, and if you just happen to go check this out, make sure you check out Quincy's channel for part one. It's a lot of nuggets over there, a lot of dimes. Make sure you like that. Make sure you subscribe to his channel, and make sure you subscribe to both channels so you get both content, and you make sure you catch both of these podcasts and both of these blogs before the Browns game. It's the best way to start your day off.
And if you're at the Muni lot and you're listening to this on your phone, hook that thing up to that big old Bluetooth speaker that you got and blast this across the Muni lot so more people can hear GBQC. Let them know. Put them on. Put them on to game, man.
Yeah,
Muni lot some favors.
Hey, listen, holler at your people, man. We just trying to make it. We just trying to make it. You hit me up earlier. When we was trying to do this, man. I was just like, man, we was thinking about some different topics we can come up with, and you was just randomly, I don't know what you was talking about at first, but you said something that really caught my eye. You started talking about these quarterbacks, and we was talking about, the fact that people's always talk about Baker Mayfield in context of how much money he wants now, but we don't ever look at the tier levels of the quarterbacks and what they're making. So when you project some of these quarterbacks and when you project some of these guys and how much they're making next year, you really can look and you almost can slot yourself and tell yourself how much you think Baker Mayfield should be making. A lot of the time we sitting here like we in some sort of void or purgatory where we don't know what he's going to be worth. Well, all you got to do is look at the future market value of the guys who are already under contract and what they're making this year and what it goes to next year. So you had a fascinating chart of the top 10 guys who are, or kind of like an anomaly. There's one or two that are an anomaly, but the top 8 paid guys that are franchise QBs and what they are scheduled to make next year. And I think you can tell where Baker should be given these numbers.
Yeah, man, I could pull it up right here. Hold on, let me make sure. I ain't got nothing on here. It's gonna give me.
I'll be watching my browsers. I'll be having all kind of crazy stuff up there, bro. I'll be like, man, you all in my browsers, man. You can you be having all kind of. You be like, listen, we done got the whole YouTube channel shut down. The boy G Bush that has some crazy stuff. You see that boy's tabs up there? He had a tab up there. He had a tab that said figure 4 leg lock.
I get nervous when my toolbar up. You know what I mean?
Nah, bro, what you mean nervous? Bro, my toolbar come up, man. We getting kicked off YouTube.
So let me open this in Safari. You know what I mean?
They're like, yeah, sorry, QC. It looks like your toolbar kind of demonetized your platform for 4 to 5 months. Yeah. Like, dang, what y'all finding that man's toolbar?
Nah, my channel ain't trying to have no ACL tear. All right. We back. All right. So I think there are 2 places you want to be with your quarterback right now. Tom Brady in this conversation, we're just not going to acknowledge him in this conversation because he is obviously an anomaly. If you're going to tell me somebody's going to do something like Tom Brady and be like Tom Brady,
he gives money.
I'm going to ask you, how many championships has that quarterback won? If it's anything less than 6 or 7, please stop talking about Tom Brady.
If your wife ain't a millionaire.
Yeah. So
twice over. And she got the bag too.
So Tom Brady is really irrelevant to any intelligent conversation we're going to have here. So please just don't bring up Tom Brady and his contract. He is obviously an outlier in this statistical conversation. But there's 2 places you want to be. Either you have your quarterback on a rookie deal, or either you have your quarterback be worth $35 million, right? Like that's the bar for a franchise quarterback. There are about 8 quarterbacks who are worth $35 million. That's technically at 34.4. We'll just up him to 35 because he's right on that line.
He in the building.
Right. So there's about 8 quarterbacks who are getting paid or their cap number is that big. Now, Matt Ryan is up here at 48 for next year. This is 2022 or 2022. Yeah. So Matt Ryan's going to be at 50 million. That's because they moved a lot of cap around. and like
I
split
think
his money.
and I
Usually
think he
Matt
might have to take
Ryan
something.
is
He
in
might have
that.
to take it to Greece, right? He might. Do you think he'll take like
No. This ain't how much he's gonna get paid.
Okay.
This is just how much his cap's gonna be.
Oh,
Because they've
got you.
moved, when they do that dead money and they
Yeah,
move it
got
around, this is the result of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
he
not
can't
his
really do
salary.
nothing about that. He might get paid like $10 million next year, but this
Yeah.
cap number gonna be this cap number. The Bills do on him.
Okay.
So that's why he's up here. He's usually under 30.
Yeah.
But then you got Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. It's a little bit of a mistake there. Look, Kirk Cousins is cool, but not $1 million less than Aaron Rodgers. Cool, but Deshaun Watson, TBD. Ryan Tannehill. It's starting to look like the part of that contract to where you're going to start to regret that is coming. But then there's Russell Wilson, who for the most part has been worth it, but last year really hasn't been worth it. Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, right? So even of those guys that are up here, there's really only a handful that you feel like you can really win a Super Bowl with, right? I don't think anybody thinks the Falcons going to win the Super Bowl. Nobody thinks that Kirk Cousins is going to win the Super Bowl this year. Deshaun Watson, for obvious reasons, is not in that conversation. Ryan Tannehill, I don't know if people really believe that the Titans can win the Super Bowl with him. But Russ, if he's on a good team and that team has a good record, people believe they can win the Super Bowl, even though his play has declined just a little bit. We don't know if that's a permanent thing or not, but Aaron Rodgers, obviously, you feel like you can win the Super Bowl with. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, you feel like you can win the Super Bowl with. Dak Prescott, I feel like people reasonably feel like you can win the Super Bowl with.
Right.
So that's $35 million, right? So once you pay them, I think the bar is if they're worth $35 million, if they are somebody you feel like can take you, not just be a part of, but take you to a Super Bowl. That's what the franchise quarterback thing is. Take you to a Super Bowl. $35 million and above, it don't really matter what you pay them. If they can take you to a Super Bowl, right? That's the difference between who's worth it, who's not.
Now, if we pause it right there and we take a look at this. Now, in the context of things, if you put Baker Mayfield's name in there, if you're looking at that list above, the two names that come to mind the most is Ryan Tannehill and your boy Kirk Cousins. Now, the reason I say that is because Ryan Tannehill has an elite running game. He has two really nice AJ Brown and Julio Jones. And then when you look at Kirk Cousins, they got on the outside Thielen, Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, got some of the same type pieces, right? And so both of those teams want to run the ball. They got receivers to throw to. So they're not solely the reason why they're going to go to a championship or make the playoffs, because they got those pieces around. And if you look at Baker, it's a little the same reason. So if you tell me I need to evaluate how much Baker is worth, I need to start at the lower threshold and say, do I believe Baker Mayfield is better than Ryan Tannehill or better than Kirk Cousins?
Well, there's that. And also, I think the bigger question that needs to be asked is, if you don't feel like your quarterback is worth $35 million, do you even bother going long-term extension with them? That's my big thing with this, right? Because there are some regrets here, right? Because I think Ryan Tannehill, that's going to end up being something they regret. Kirk Cousins is already something they kind of regret there in Minnesota. But when you look at these dudes who, teams tried to split the difference on, right? You get Jared Goff, $30 million a year. Absolute mistake, right? They traded a pick just to get rid of that mistake in LA. Carson Wentz, another team that traded a pick away just to get rid of that mistake in that contract, right? Philly don't want him no more. That's a mistake. Jimmy Garoppolo.
They
drafted Trey Lance, but they're still paying this man $27 million next year. Lamar Jackson, obviously, he's a rookie deal. Matt Stafford, right? I think Matt Stafford might be best case scenario that you can get out of that mid-range kind of money there for a quarterback. And even then, I have issues thinking that the Rams are going to win a Super Bowl because of Matt Stafford or with Matt Stafford, because every time the Rams have played a team worthwhile this year, it's been Matt Stafford throwing pick sixes for why they can't win, right?
He's played pretty bad against
Yeah.
at home too against the Titans. Pick sixes,
I know people can be like, "Oh, he played well against the Jaguars." Ain't nobody ever say Matt Stafford can't play well against the Jaguars. That's not where we at with Matt Stafford. We know Matt Stafford's good against the Jaguars, but the question is, can this be somebody who takes you, not ends up, takes you to a Super Bowl? Matt Stafford ain't that kind of dude. He's never been that kind of dude. I doubt he's going to be that kind of dude in year 10. He's Matt Stafford. But that's best case scenario, and you're still very iffy on that, right? Like, I think the dream for a lot of people who are like, hey, can we get Baker on the discount, is Matt Stafford. $23 million. You have a reasonable shot, but you're not 100% sure. That is like where we're at with this whole conversation. Then you got like the second best case scenario, right? We talked about this, Derek Carr. And yeah, you can argue that Derek Carr is better than a lot of the quarterbacks who are getting paid more than him.
Yeah.
But my thing with Derek Carr is, what has Derek Carr done for the Raiders?
Nothing.
Have the Raiders have been any more of a threat? Well, they've been more of a threat than they were with Jamarcus Russell. But have the Raiders been a team that you don't expect to beat if you have any serious aspirations, or have they been that team at the Mendoza line, right? Like, either you're going to be sorry or you're going to be good, and it determines on whether you can beat the Raiders, right?
To me, Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield, to me, is a 1-to-1 comparison.
Yep.
If you watch Derek Carr play, there are some games Derek Carr looks like, oh man, this dude is nice. He's efficient. He don't turn the ball over. Like, he got a good arm. He's accurate. But then there's some games you turn the film on, and it's just like, why'd you do that? Why are you checking everything down? And he's at what, 19 million?
Yeah, he's at 19 million. But here's my bigger point here. Are any of these teams that paid their quarterback less than $35 million really better off than they were, or not better off? Because they might be better off, right? They might be a game or two better. Or any of these teams serious Super Bowl contenders? Now, again, the Rams could be a serious Super Bowl contender, but the reason the Rams are a serious Super Bowl contender, I don't really hear people saying, oh man, Matt Stafford, right? They were a Super Bowl contender with Jared Goff. It's pretty much been determined that it's what's around the quarterback in Los Angeles, not necessarily the quarterback, right? Because they went to the second round with Jared Goff, and we see Jared Goff in the Lions. He's absolutely Duke right now. So that's the thing. If you want to keep Baker Mayfield, you have to hope that he plays at a level that you can justify paying $35 million for. If not, it might not make sense to keep him on like this little mid-tier kind of long-term deal, like an Andy Dalton contract, just because very rarely does that contract ever bear fruit. You have to do what, and look at some of these teams that gave up on these quarterbacks, right? Jared Goff, he got traded. They brought in a different quarterback in the same range, but got traded. Carson Wentz was on the Eagles, got traded. They drafted another quarterback. Now, they ain't really working out for him, but they were awful last year with Carson Wentz, right? The 49ers, they're going to go move on to Trey Lance, right? When the Patriots lost Tom Brady, they replaced him with Mac Jones. Well, they replaced him with Cam Newton. Cam Newton was cooked, and then they got Mac Jones. So, you know,
I mean, you can argue the Chiefs.
The reality is with the quarterback,
did that.
The reality is when we're talking about paying quarterbacks, we get so caught up in the number that we think the actual number of it means anything. I think there are two places you want to be with the quarterback: rookie deal, or a dude who you have no hesitation about paying that $35 million to, right? Like, that's the two places you want to be. Either you got a dude on his rookie deal who, you know, if he's playing at a Matt Stafford level, it's not really that bad. It's not really that big of a deal because you can build around him. Or you have Aaron Rodgers. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Dak Prescott. Or, you know, when Russell Wilson was in his prime, Russell Wilson. You have one of those guys who can always take you there. Very rarely does the mid-tier guy. Ben Roethlisberger, right? On his rookie deal, he won 2, right? After his rookie deal, he won none, right? Andy Dalton did not win a playoff game. Another mid-range guy. Like, again, there is some value in not being mediocre and not going all the way back to the bottom, right?
I would say,
But if we're talking about like what you can do to not make your quarterback situation the best possible, but what you can do, what situations you want to be with a long-term situation with your quarterback, you either want a rookie deal or you either want a franchise, no hesitation, $35 million guy. And if you're in between that, you're kind of in no man's land. And that's where this whole thing gets real difficult.
Man,
that's my whole point.
When you look at it, I think what you know, when it comes down to like layman's terms, it's go big or go home. It's, you know, if you need to ask yourself a question. It's like marrying somebody. Can you say to yourself, I would not hesitate to be beside this woman until I died, and I'm good with it? No hesitation, no hezzy, not thinking about it. That's just what I'm gonna do when it's me. Yeah, then go ahead and get married. But if you're a dude who like, man, I guess I'm long term, I can be with her 10 years, I can be with her 15 years, but I can't see myself just being with one. Like, that means she's not a franchise woman. She's not a franchise woman. And you just want a little girlfriend. You want a college girlfriend. That ain't gonna work. It's the same thing in quarterbacks. Yeah, you're gonna have some good times. You're gonna have some good fun. You're gonna go out and drink and have some parties. Just the same way you're gonna have some good wins with a mediocre guy. You're gonna have some really good ups. You're gonna beat a couple teams you shouldn't have beat, but you're gonna lose to a lot of bad teams you shouldn't have lost to. That's what a $19 to $23 million quarterback give you. So you need to ask yourself, do I just keep playing the field until I find a franchise quarterback? That's your philosophy. That's for you and the general manager to decide. But for me,
I think the game is more, until you find somebody you have no problem giving $35 million a year to, then you're looking for a quarterback. You're always looking for a better option at quarterback. Like, that just is the reality of what it is. You cannot settle in and just accept your quarterback situation at what it is if you don't feel like you have that kind of a dude, because what history tells us is that if you don't have one of those guys, or if you don't have somebody on a rookie deal, you have a harder time in a very slim, you don't have the greatest of chances at winning a Super Bowl. Can it happen? It can always happen, right? Eli Manning will be the case for a lot of these guys, right? Because Eli Manning, I don't know how much, comparatively into his field he was paid, because I was not covering the NFL at that time, but I don't think he was paid ridiculous money for the New York Giants. And I don't think he was ever considered one of the best quarterbacks, but he did win 2 Super Bowl rings, right? So if you do get into playoffs relatively enough, you're going to be a contender. The thing is, when you look at these dudes who are paid under $30 million a year, there aren't a lot of perennial playoff contenders, right? Like, you can get lucky. And I think Big Ben is like the best case scenario you can get with a dude who's not an MVP candidate, but he's worth the $30 million or whatever it is you're going to give him, because you feel like you got a chance at least.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, though.
Yeah. He's still a Hall of Fame type dude.
Yeah, like
but when you look at the guys right now that are under 35, right? It's, Matt Stafford, it's Derek Carr. These are not guys who, while they were being paid the bulk of that money, who have been perennial playoff qualifiers, right?
Right.
So if you can't even get that, right? If you can't get perennial playoff qualifier for your long-term money, you might as well always be looking for a new quarterback. Now, that don't mean that you have to get rid of the dude and you can't like keep him around for an extra year or two while you look for the next one. That doesn't mean that we have to cut ties with Baker immediately, right? But it does mean that if you don't feel like he's going to be worth that, maybe in a year or two, you do draft the quarterback and you do, try to transition and keep transitioning until you find a guy that you're like, yeah, $35 million, no problem. Or 45 or whatever the bar is at that time, no problem, right? The Ravens, they're going to have no issue giving Lamar Jackson $40 million a year. And if they don't, the Browns will give him $45 million a year.
Yeah, right.
Will give him 40. I will go fund me the money to get Lamar Jackson.
My mama,
you know what I mean? If the Browns don't want to do it, we could bring him here, right? The same thing with Josh Allen, right? I think they already gave that man his money. He's going to kick in a couple of years, right? So that's my main point. When we talk about quarterbacks, we get so caught up in the minutia of, well, he might just be worth $18 million or he might just be worth $20 million. And my thing is, if he ain't worth the 35, then you might as well not give him 18. Like, that is the big difference here, right? Like, you might as well string this thing out with franchise tags for a couple of years, find a replacement and move on, because history tells us you don't want to be at that second tier of quarterback contract because it rarely ever bears fruit. I mean, even when you can consistently qualify for the playoffs like the Bengals did with Andy Dalton, doesn't guarantee that you can win them games, right?
This is my point right here. This is my point before we ride up out of here. And I thought I did this poll on Twitter. And I'm going to ask you this question. So, say, for instance, the Browns are a team that have enough talent to perennially be a wild card team, right? So, if you are playing in the AFC and the Browns are perennially a wild card type ball club with a relatively, 11 and, you know what the records is, 11 and something, 12 and something, maybe 10 and something every single year. And in the playoffs, they need to play in the wild card, maybe a Justin Herbert. Divisional round, they need to play Josh Allen and the Bills. Championship, they may need to either play Lamar Jackson and the Ravens or Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then in the Super Bowl, they got to play Tom Brady or in the Bucks or the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. What percentage chance do you give the Browns in winning a Super Bowl if they had to play all of those type teams?
I got to put this in two categories. Depends on which Baker Mayfield we're getting, right? Like, which version of this dude are we getting? Are we getting this year's version of Baker Mayfield? I don't think we're getting out the first round. If we get last year's version of Baker Mayfield, I think, I think there's I don't think it's a great chance, but I think it's like 25%, which is fair enough odds. Like, I'll put it at 25, 20% if he's playing at the level that he did last year. I just don't know if that's something he can repeat again, right? Like, that's the big
year
thing.
in, year out.
Yeah, so that's the big thing, right? When we need it, can we depend on it? That's what concerns me about him, because last year I was ready to give him $35 million because that was worth it. Like, it would have been worth it if he played like that. But the thing with him is that I don't know if was that an aberration or is this an aberration? But, it's hard to say this is an aberration because we've been here before with them in 2019. But also it's hard to say that the good play is an aberration because we've been there before with them in 2018 and 2020. So it's like we don't know what we were going to get from him on a given year. And this is why the whole Baker Mayfield thing is difficult. This is like, sometimes Baker Mayfield reminds me of a much more likable and a much better version of like a Jay Cutler, right? Where it can be up.
That's kind of facts.
It can be down, right? Like, again, he's not as unlikable as Jay Cutler. That's what made Jay Cutler's whole situation difficult. Nobody liked how the man got down. He was lazy. He didn't like to do stuff. He was kind of a jerk, right? Like, that's kind of goes into what goes down with Jay Cutler. His work ethic, and people just didn't feel like he was there to play football. Baker Mayfield's got the exact opposite thing. People don't believe that man don't like football. That man loves football. But when it comes to his play, it's very similar to, like, it could be up, it could be down, because when Jay Cutler is at his peak, oh man, we could go places. He's out here making plays. Like, the people drop Baker into this Andy Dalton category. And the reason I just disagree with that is not because I think he's like a higher Madden overall, whatever you want to like quantify the overall in, than Andy Dalton or something, and it shouldn't be compared. It's just they get to those two places completely differently, right? Because Baker Mayfield is a guy kind of like a Jeff George back in the day for these old school football fans.
I was just about to say that was my comparison. He's Jeff George to me.
Yeah, like a Jeff George is somebody who, like, the problem ain't that you don't think that you could win a Super Bowl with him, or that you don't think that he could make the play. The problem is you never know when the hell that play going to happen. And if he's going to be able to make that, if he's going to be playing on that level on that given Sunday. Like, that is the dependability of when that dude is going to be at that level is and show up. That's the issue with Baker Mayfield. It's not that he hasn't shown sparks. He shows the sparks all the time. Is that the sparks are so damn random, you can't depend on these sparks happening. Now, again, he could put together 5 good games here, and like, let's say he puts 4 or 5 good playoff games together. All right, man, we're gonna have to roll with that at that point, right? Like, it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. But if it's one down season, one bad season, one down season, one bad season, then it makes it real difficult to give the man long-term money.
Yeah,
that's where this thing gets complicated with it. And I don't think enough people acknowledge that that's exactly why this is complicated. It's not that Baker Mayfield is not capable of making plays that you would expect out of franchise quarterback. The reason this is complicated is because he just don't do it all the time. Right? Yeah. Like, that's why it's so frustrating. If he were out there like Sam Darnold, we wouldn't be having no arguments over who's going to be the quarterback or whatever you're going to do. We would be already moving on, right? Because we know that. But the problem is he's not Sam Darnold. He is so much better than Sam Darnold. And sometimes he looks like he could be just as good as Josh Allen. But other times he looked like Sam Darnold. So
or slightly worse.
Yeah,
it's like
it's like that's what makes this whole thing very difficult. And there is a large sample size of both levels of play, right? There are 2 years each. This is the weirdest thing, but there are almost 2 full years each of bad play, good play. And you could blame the bad play on those years. You could blame it this year on injury. You could blame it 2019 on Freddie Kitchens and Ty Monken. And then you could blame the good play on everything that he had around him in 2020 and whatever you want to blame it on in 2018, right? But the fact of the matter is, that's the thing. Baker has 2 excellent years, 2 bad years. And that's what makes the whole long-term future of him and paying him so damn complicated. Because it ain't that we don't think he's good, is that we don't know when he's going to be good. And that's a hard thing to put a value on.
I always tell people like this, man. When you're looking at a situation in which you deciding whether or not the dude is a long-term answer, my thing is, you think long, you think wrong. A lot of times people do this. I'm a person that always goes by the motto, as an administrator, sometimes as an administrator, people already know what they got. But instead of pulling the trigger on something and making a decision on it, they like to sit back and gather all the data so they can say, I didn't make the wrong decision. Look, I didn't have a knee-jerk reaction, when they could have actually made a decision immediately, actually turned the ship around, got things in order moving, and kept it going. My thing is, we doing a lot here in Cleveland. And I think that the gist of it is, this isn't the Baker Browns. Our whole existence isn't to find out whether this man is good or bad, or is he hurt or not, or if he's going to get $40 million. Here's your worst nightmare. You give a man $35 million, $40 million, whatever the case may be, and then next year you get enough information to see he's not good enough. Then you now can't even go out and surround him to make him look better because of the amount of money that he has. And your worst nightmare is a guy like Myles Garrett saying, you know what, man, I done played for a perennial loser my whole career. Trade me. Trade. I already done said I ain't gonna play that long. I'm only gonna play till I'm 30. I'm not going to be out here running around. I'm going to play with dinosaurs or be a paleontologist or whatever. But trade me to a contender. For every year that you waste trying to figure out what the quarterback is, your offensive line is getting older. Your top players is being disgruntled because they're not winning. Everybody is continuing to get mileage and pounding. Your running backs that ran the ball 300, 400 times a year. You're in trouble now. So my thought process is, you guys might make a decision. That whole thing about franchising him 4 or 5 years, I'm completely against that.
No, I'm saying like you're gonna want to look at the short-term options to keep him because again, having Baker Mayfield is better than not having Baker Mayfield. Like, right? Like, so if you could keep him around for a year, I'm just saying, like, or like they might do something where it's like 20 million or 40 million for 2 years, right? Where it's not 45 a year, but it's 20 a year, 2 years, and it gives them time to move on. But it's like it's like I don't think they should do 5 years, 120 million, right? Like my thing is about the years as well. Like
5.
No, I'm saying I don't think they should do 5 years.
Oh no, I get
I don't think though. I think those contracts where you go long term, mid range money for a quarterback, it almost never works out, right? You know what I mean? It's like, well, my mom used to say something like that. It's like if you're gonna buy something that you feel like you're gonna have for a while, spend the extra $20. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna get a jacket, right? Not like a t-shirt, but a jacket you plan to wear for a while, get the good one. Spend an extra $30. You know what I mean? And that's what it's like with quarterbacks, right? You don't want to be out here with the jacket that you could afford at the time for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Like you want to, or the car, right? Let's say you run into a car that you could afford at the time. So you sign yourself to like a 6-year lease on that car and then you get a promotion. All of a sudden now you can afford a better car. You wish you would have leased short-term 1 year, right? I'm now sure somebody who's into finance is going to tell me exactly why that's terrible advice. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm analogizing here, y'all. So cut me some slack if it doesn't hold up to every single aspect.
Quincy, leases are a 2-year. Actually,
somebody is going to leave a 2-paragraph response to that specific one. So don't worry, G Bush. Somebody got you covered on that. But my thing is with quarterbacks, it's a lot like that, right? You want to get the quarterback that's like, hey, let's get the extra $20, right? Let's get the iPhone, not the tri-phone, right? Like
the iPhone.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna keep your phone for the next 4 years, let's get the iPhone. Let's get the good one. You know what I mean? Let's get the one with the extra memory on it.
Hey Chuck, hey Q, I got this thing over here, man. I got this brand new iPhone. Got this iPhone, man.
Yeah.
Chuck,
so
you there?
You know what I mean? So you just that's how you want to operate with the quarterback. If you're going to go long term, you're going to go short term, whatever, go short term. 1-year deals, whatever, short term, but make sure that you're looking for somebody for that long term future, right? That's what I mean by short term. It's like, short term, but we looking, right? I'm dating, but I'm also looking, right? That's what it's going to be with them. But with Baker, it's like, man, I feel like one of these years he's going to have like it's going to happen, by the way. If the Browns let go of Baker Mayfield, whether you think Baker sucks or Baker's good, if the Browns let go of Baker Mayfield, it is going to drive y'all crazy because I promise you the year after the Browns drop him, he is going to have a career year. Like that is just going to happen. He is going to have a career year and we are going to be mad upset about it because, again, that's the thing with Baker. It's not that Baker is not good. It's that Baker can be extremely good. He can also be not good. Bad. Like that. It's one or the other, and it's hard to live like that long term with your quarterback. And maybe he does find stability, right? Maybe he gets somewhere with like not New England, but New Orleans or something like that, and he finds some stability and he becomes a more consistent quarterback, similar to what a Drew Brees did. Or maybe he finds that in Cleveland, right? Maybe he just gets it together after some rocky years. Because, again, Ben Roethlisberger, mad inconsistent his first 4 years in the NFL. Peyton Manning, mad inconsistent his first 4 years in the NFL and stabilized. So maybe you take the bet on that, right? But you have to be sure that you're going to be right. And if you're not right, that's how you end up with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, right? Those were bets that they made that did not work out. But if you are right, there are some cases that can prove that can work, right? If you right, Drew Brees, boom, right there. That's great. Brett Favre, if you're right on Brett Favre, okay, cool. They gave up on him. He was too inconsistent. You signed him, boom. Peyton Manning, you was right on Peyton Manning. For a couple of years there, the Titans felt like they was pretty damn right on Ryan Tannehill. Got so much better out of him, right? The fact that we still talking about Ryan Tannehill as a starting caliber NFL quarterback is a credit to Ryan Tannehill. So, this coin goes both ways. You can make the bet here or there, but history normally dictates that if you do make that bet, it's usually one that might have a 25% chance of going your way and a 75% chance of making you look like a fool. So that's kind of what the situation is, whether you love Baker or you don't love Baker, or whatever people are in this argument. Like, I ain't getting into it. I ain't on the specific side of it. But wherever you are on this argument with Baker Mayfield, that's the reality, right? And there are a lot of people who do not want to take a 75% chance on this, and there are a lot of people who are like 25%. Sounds like the best odds we've had at finding a franchise quarterback in 25 years. Both sides have some very valid reasons for feeling that way, but that is why this is this right now, because that's what's happening. This is where we're at with Baker. And hopefully, I hope that he just clears this whole thing up by playing well and winning the Super Bowl this year, because then it won't matter if he stinks for the next 5 years. We got our Super Bowl. You know what I mean? We give him his $45 million. We'll do whatever the hell you want. He on that Eli Manning track. He could retire here. We don't care, bruh. Like, do your thing, man, if you win a Super Bowl and get this thing right. But, until he does that, we got to have this conversation.
And until y'all hit that subscribe button, we can't get these 10,000 views a show. So make sure y'all hit that subscribe button and make sure you go ahead and share this with as many people as you can. And we're going to get back at you on Sunday. Make sure you hit this and make sure you get in on Sunday on Quincy's channel. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Barbershop and G Bush's channel. And then you ain't never going to miss none of this content and the Browns content. So for GB and
QC,
we out of here. Go Browns.